I wish someone had warned me about pride, about assumptions, about thinking you know someone just because they smile and nod politely at your dinner table. My name is Patricia Morrison, and for the past 3 years, I thought I'd mastered the delicate art of being a widow, a mother, and now a grandmother. My husband Richard passed when I was 62, leaving me with our home in Portland, a modest pension, and memories of 41 years together. Our son James was my anchor through those dark months. He'd call every Sunday, visit every other weekend, and when he got engaged to Nicole, I genuinely believed my heart was healing. Nicole seemed perfect for him. She was polished, ambitious, worked in marketing for a tech startup, French mother, American father, raised in Seattle. She had that effortless elegance some women just possess. When James told me they were getting married, I cried happy tears for the first time since Richard died. The trouble started so quietly I almost missed it. It was little things at first. The way Nicole's smile would tighten when I'd bring over my apple pie, James's favorite since childhood. How she'd reorganize my Tupperware containers after I'd meal prepped for them, explaining she had a system. The time I showed up unannounced with groceries and found her irritation barely concealed behind a polite thank you. "Mom," James said one evening when I voiced my concerns, "you're being oversensitive. Nicole appreciates everything you do. She's just particular about things." So I told myself I was imagining it. That grief had made me paranoid, that I was the stereotypical overbearing mother-in-law and I needed to give them space. Then came the dinner that changed everything. James called me on a Tuesday afternoon, his voice bright with excitement. "Mom, huge news. You remember that French pharmaceutical company I've been courting for months? They're flying their executive team to Portland next week. They want to finalize the partnership deal." "That's wonderful, honey." "There's more. Nicole suggested we host them for dinner at our place. Make it personal, you know? And Mom, she specifically said we should invite you." I felt a warmth spread through my chest. Maybe I had been wrong. Maybe Nicole was extending an olive branch. "She said that?" "Absolutely. She said, and I quote, 'Your mother should absolutely be there. It'll show we're a family company with strong values.'" I should have questioned it more. Should have wondered why Nicole, who'd seemed so resistant to my presence before, suddenly wanted me at a crucial business dinner. "What can I bring?" I asked. "Just yourself, Mom." "Nicole's handling everything. She's been practicing her French, actually. Wants to make a good impression since her mother was from Lyon." French. My stomach did a small flip. I hadn't told anyone, not even James, about the French classes I'd been taking at the community center for the past 18 months. It started as something to do, a way to fill the empty hours after Richard died. Then it became a passion. I'd fallen in love with the language, with Monique, my instructor, with our small class of retirees and dreamers. I'd gotten good. Very good. Monique said I had a natural ear for it. But I'd kept it private, almost embarrassed to admit that a 65-year-old widow was learning French like some cliché from a movie. "That's nice," I said carefully. "When is it?" "Next Friday. 7 o'clock. And Mom? Dress nice, okay? These are important people." The week crawled by. I bought a new navy dress, tasteful pearls, got my hair done at the salon. When Friday arrived, I was nervous for reasons I couldn't quite name. I arrived at 6:45, early as always. Nicole answered the door in a stunning black dress, her dark hair swept into a chignon. "Patricia," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "You're here, come in." The house looked immaculate. Candles, fresh flowers, the dining table set with china I didn't recognize. James emerged from the kitchen, kissed my cheek, smelled like cologne and nervous energy. The Beaumonts should be here any minute. Philippe Beaumont is the CEO, his wife Isabelle, and their VP of International Operations, Marc Dubois. "Just be yourself, Mom. Should I help with anything?" "No." Nicole's voice was sharp, then softer. "We have everything handled. Why don't you sit in the living room? I'll bring you some wine." I settled onto the couch, accepted the glass of Chardonnay, and waited. The doorbell rang at 7 precisely. I watched from my position as James welcomed them in. Philippe Beaumont was tall, silver-haired, 60-ish, with that French elegance that seems genetic. His wife Isabelle was petite, warm-smiled, wearing a cream-colored dress. Marc Dubois was younger, maybe 40, handsome in a severe way. The introductions were made. Everyone shook hands. Nicole's French, I noted, was textbook perfect but heavily accented. She stumbled over the liaison in Enchanté. We moved to the dining room. Nicole had placed me at the far end of the table, next to Isabelle, across from Marc. James sat at the head, Philippe and Nicole on either side of him. The first course arrived. Soup, some kind of butternut squash bisque. Conversation flowed in English. Polite talk about the flight from Paris, Portland's weather, the food scene. Then Philippe said something in French to Isabelle. Just a quick comment about the soup, how it reminded him of his grandmother's recipe. Isabelle laughed, responded in French. Nicole leaned in. I'm so sorry. What was that? Philippe switched to English. I was just saying the soup is excellent. But I'd understood every word. The ease of it surprised even me. 18 months of classes, of vocabulary drills, of Monique correcting my pronunciation, and suddenly it was just there, unlocked in my brain like a door I'd been walking past my whole life. The second course came. Coq au vin, Nicole's triumph. She explained in English how she'd made it, and everyone complimented appropriately. Then I heard it. Marc said something to Philippe in rapid French, something about the contract terms. Philippe responded, also in French. They were discussing business, assuming no one understood. I kept my face neutral, ate my chicken, and listened. Nicole noticed. I'm sorry, she said to the table, her cheeks slightly pink. They're probably talking business. Typical men, right? She laughed. Everyone laughed. Then Nicole turned to Isabelle and said in French, carefully enunciated like she was reading from a phrase book, J'espère que vous appréciez le repas. I hope you're enjoying the meal. Isabelle smiled. Très bien, merci. Vous parlez français? Nicole beamed. Un petit peu. My mother was from Lyon, actually. I grew up hearing it but never quite mastered it. They exchanged a few more pleasantries. Nicole was trying so hard, and Isabelle was gracious about it. I felt almost sorry for her. Then dinner continued. The men discussed the partnership in English. James was animated, passionate about the project. I was proud of him. Dessert arrived, tart tatin, caramelized apples gleaming, coffee was poured, and then I heard Nicole say something that made my blood freeze. She'd turned to Isabelle, assuming they were in their own private bubble of fractured French conversation, and said in what she probably thought was a quiet voice, entre nous, c'est un peu difficile avec sa mère ici ce soir. Between us, it's a bit difficult having his mother here tonight. I felt my hand tighten on my coffee cup. Isabelle looked surprised, uncomfortable. She glanced at me, then back at Nicole. Nicole continued, emboldened by what she perceived as a sympathetic audience. Elle est gentille, mais elle ne comprend pas les limites. Toujours chez nous, toujours avec ses Tupperware et ses conseils. She's nice, but she doesn't understand boundaries. Always at our house, always with her Tupperware and her advice. My face felt hot. I stared at my dessert plate. James se sent obligé de l'inclure dans tout. C'est épuisant. Mais ce soir, au moins, elle ne peut pas vraiment participer à la conversation importante. Vous voyez? James feels obligated to include her in everything. It's exhausting. But tonight, at least, she can't really participate in the important conversation, you see? Isabelle's discomfort was visible now. She said something non-committal, tried to change the subject, but Nicole wasn't done. Honnêtement, j'attendais qu'elle déménage dans une résidence pour seniors. Ça donnerait à James et moi l'espace dont nous avons besoin pour commencer notre propre famille. Honestly, I was waiting for her to move into a senior residence. It would give James and I the space we need to start our own family. The room tilted slightly. Or maybe that was just me, trying to process what I'd heard. Not just the words themselves, but the casual cruelty of them. The assumption that I was too old, too ignorant, too irrelevant to understand. I looked up, caught Isabelle's eye. She looked mortified. Marc, who'd been listening, raised his eyebrows. He'd understood too, of course. Philippe was carefully neutral. James was oblivious, discussing market projections. Nicole laughed at something, touched Isabelle's hand conspiratorially. I made a decision in that moment. Not born of anger, though God knows I was angry. Born of something colder, clearer. I would wait. The dinner wound down. Cheese course, more wine. Philippe mentioned how much he'd enjoyed the evening. Mark complimented the meal. Isabel was quiet, kept glancing at me with something like pity. Then Philippe turned to me directly. "Mrs. Morrison, you've been very quiet this evening. I hope we haven't bored you with all our business talk." Everyone looked at me. Nicole's smile was patronizing. James looked concerned. This was my moment. I smiled at Philippe. "Pas du tout, Monsieur Beaumont. J'ai trouvé la conversation fascinante." "Not at all, Mr. Beaumont." I found the conversation fascinating. The silence was immediate, complete. Philippe's eyes widened. Mark's mouth opened slightly. Isabel looked like she might cry with relief. Nicole's face went white. James stared at me. "Mom, did you just—" I turned to Isabel, speaking French as naturally as breathing. "Isabelle, je voulais vous dire que votre robe est magnifique. La couleur vous va à merveille." "Isabelle, I wanted to tell you that your dress is beautiful. The color suits you wonderfully." Isabelle recovered first. "Merci beaucoup, Patricia. Vous parlez français couramment." "Thank you very much, Patricia." "You speak French fluently?" "J'apprends depuis 10 à 8 mois. C'est devenu une passion. I've been learning for 18 months. It's become a passion." Philippe laughed, delighted. "Excellent. Your accent is very good. You've been holding out on us all evening." I smiled. I didn't want to presume, but I have to say, I understood every word of the business discussion. The contract terms you mentioned, Mark, regarding the distribution rights, very clever negotiating. Mark grinned. "You heard all that?" "Everything." I let that word hang in the air. Let everyone absorb what it meant. Nicole's composure cracked. James? Did you know about this?" James looked bewildered. "Mom, since when do you speak French?" "Since I needed something to fill my days after your father died. I take classes at the community center, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monique Archambault is my instructor, lovely woman, originally from Marseille." I turned back to Philippe, switching to French. "I apologize if I seemed standoffish earlier. I was simply enjoying listening to your perspectives on the American market. Your insights about regional distribution were particularly interesting." We fell into conversation. Real conversation. Philippe asked about my late husband, my life in Portland. Isabel told me about their grandchildren. Mark discussed French literature, recommended some books. Nicole sat frozen, her face the color of her white napkin. James kept looking between us, trying to understand what had just happened. After 20 minutes of flowing French conversation, Philippe checked his watch. "We should be going. Early flight tomorrow." Everyone stood. There were handshakes, cheek kisses. Philippe took my hand. "It was a genuine pleasure meeting you, Patricia. You have a gift for language." "Merci infiniment." Isabel hugged me, whispered in French, "I'm sorry about what Nicole said. That was inappropriate." I whispered back, "Don't worry. It's handled." When they left, the three of us stood in the entryway. The silence was deafening. Finally, James spoke. "Mom, what just happened?" I looked at Nicole. Her face was a mixture of shame and defiance. "Nicole," I said quietly, "would you like to tell James what you said to Isabel during dessert? Or should I translate?" She closed her eyes. "James, I'm sorry. I didn't think." "She said," I continued, my voice steady, "that it was difficult having me here tonight, that I don't understand boundaries, that I'm always at your house with my Tupperware and advice, that you feel obligated to include me in everything, and it's exhausting." James's face went pale. "Nicole, tell me she's wrong." Nicole was crying now. "I was just venting. I didn't mean." She also said, I continued, because I needed him to hear it all, that she was waiting for me to move into a senior residence, so you two could have space to start your own family. James looked at his wife like he'd never seen her before. "How could you say that? I didn't think anyone would understand." "That's not better, Nicole, that's worse." His voice cracked. "You meant every word. You just thought you'd get away with it." I put my hand on my son's arm. "James, honey, I'm going to go home now." "Mom, no. Stay. We need to talk about this." "Not tonight. You and Nicole need to talk. Alone." I picked up my purse. "But James, I want you to know something. I have never, not once, felt like you were obligated to include me. Every Sunday call, every visit, I thought it was because you wanted to, because we're family, If Nicole felt burdened by me, she could have spoken to me like an adult. Instead, she humiliated me in front of strangers, in a language she assumed I was too old and too stupid to understand. I looked at Nicole. I spent 41 years married to a good man. He taught me many things, but the most important was this. Respect isn't about age or money or position. It's about seeing the full humanity in every person. You looked at me and saw an inconvenient old woman with Tupperware. You never saw me. I walked to the door. James followed. Mom, I'm so sorry. You didn't know, sweetheart. But now you do. And what you do with that information is up to you. I drove home through Portland's rainy streets, my hands shaking on the wheel. When I got to my empty house, I sat in Richard's chair and cried. Not from anger anymore, but from the sheer loneliness of being invisible to someone who should have loved me, or at least respected me. My phone rang around midnight. James. Mom? Did I wake you? No, honey. I'm up. Nicole and I have been talking for hours. She's devastated. She knows what she did was unforgivable. I waited. I told her she needs to apologize to you. Genuinely. And we need to go to counseling. Both of us. Because if she could say those things about you, my mother, what does that say about us? James, I appreciate that. But an apology doesn't erase what was said. I know. Mom, I know. He was crying. I've been blind. All those times you brought food over, helped with things, I thought Nicole was just busy. I didn't see that she was freezing you out, that she resented you. She wants to start her own family. That's natural. Not like this. Not by pushing you out. Mom, you're 65 years old. Dad's been gone 3 years. You're not ancient. You're not a burden. You're my mother, and I love you. And I'm ashamed that my wife made you feel anything less than cherished. I cried then. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. And Mom? The French thing? That was incredible. I had no idea. Will you tell me about it sometime? About the classes? About why you started? I'd like that. We talked for another hour. About Richard. About grief. About the future. When we hung up, I felt lighter. Nicole called me 3 days later. Asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed. We sat across from each other at a cafe on Hawthorne, both awkward, both hurting. I owe you an apology, she started. Not just for what I said, but for how I've treated you since James and I got married. I was intimidated by you. I blinked. Intimidated? You and Richard had this perfect marriage. 41 years. James talks about his childhood like it was idyllic. His parents were in love, supportive, present. My parents divorced when I was 7. My relationship with my own mother is complicated. And then there you were, this woman who'd figured out how to be a good wife, a good mother, and I felt like I could never measure up. I hadn't expected this. Nicole. So instead of asking for help, or trying to learn from you, I pushed you away. I told myself you were overbearing, when really I was terrified you'd see how much I didn't know. About marriage, about family, about being enough for James. We sat in silence. What you said still hurt, I said finally. Deeply. I know. And I can't take it back. But Patricia, if you're willing, I'd like to try to build something real between us. Not perfect, but honest. I want to learn from you. About the things that matter. I studied her face. Saw genuine remorse. Genuine fear. It won't be easy. I know. And I'm not moving into a senior residence. Not for a long time, God willing. She laughed, watery. I was horrible. I don't even know why I said that. Because you thought no one was listening. That's when we reveal who we really are. Then I have a lot of work to do on who I really am. We didn't solve everything that day. Trust isn't rebuilt over coffee, but it was a start. Over the next months, Nicole and I met regularly, sometimes for lunch, sometimes at my house, once even at my French class where Monique utterly charmed her. Nicole started asking me questions. About Richard, about raising James, about grief and resilience and the 1,000 small decisions that make a life. She apologized to the Beaumonts too, through James's business connection. They were gracious about it. James and Nicole went to counseling. Their marriage didn't magically fix itself, but they worked at it. And me? I kept taking French. Started a book club with some women from class. Went to Paris for 2 weeks with Monique and 3 other students. Stood at the top of the Eiffel Tower and thought about Richard, about second chances, about the unexpected gifts that come from pain. I'm 66 now. Last month, Nicole told me she's pregnant. She called me first, even before calling her own mother, asked if I'd help her, guide her, be there. I said yes, because that's what family does. But I also told her this: I will never pretend not to understand something just to make you comfortable. I will never make myself smaller so you can feel bigger. What I will do is love you honestly, respect you genuinely, and expect the same in return. She cried. I wouldn't want it any other way. Sometimes I think about that dinner, about the moment I heard those words in French and had to choose. I could have stayed silent, let it pass, kept the peace, but silence would have been a different kind of death, a slow erasure of myself. Instead, I spoke up, in a language I'd learned in the aftermath of loss, in the quiet hours of rebuilding a life alone. I spoke up, and everything changed. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But this wasn't revenge. This was something else entirely. This was a woman refusing to be invisible, refusing to accept that being 65, being widowed, being kind meant being a doormat. You are not too old to learn new things. You are not too old to demand respect. You are not too old to surprise people who underestimated you. And you are never, ever too old to speak up when someone assumes you can't understand.